warning. The great council chamber was filled with nervous whispers. Hundreds of alien cadets sat in their seats, looking at each other with worried eyes. The room was huge, with tall silver walls that reached up to the dark ceiling. Bright blue lights shone down on everyone below. At the front of the room, a large screen suddenly turned on. Red letters flashed across it. Deathworlder alert, maximum danger level. The whispers stopped. Everyone became silent. Commander Vex stood up from his chair. He was a tall alien with purple skin and 4 arms. His face looked very serious. He walked slowly to the center of the stage, and his footsteps echoed in the quiet room. Cadets. His deep voice filled the chamber. Today you will learn about the most dangerous species in the galaxy. A young alien in the 3rd row raised her hand. She had green scales and big yellow eyes. Sir, are you talking about the Krogath warriors? Or the plasma beasts from Sector 9? Commander Vex shook his head slowly. No, Cadet Reela. I'm talking about something far worse. I'm talking about Deathworlders. The room exploded with noise. Cadets turned to each other, talking fast. Some looked scared. Others looked confused. Silence. Commander Vex raised all 4 of his arms. The room became quiet again. He pressed a button on his control pad. The big screen changed. Now it showed a picture of a small blue and green planet floating in space. This, he said, pointing at the screen, is Earth. A Class 12 death world, the most dangerous type of planet in our records. Another alien cadet, this one with gray fur and 6 legs, spoke up. Sir, what makes it so dangerous? Commander Vex's eyes grew darker. Everything, Cadet Thorm, everything. He pressed another button. The screen now showed images of Earth's surface. There were massive storms, huge waves in the ocean, and lightning striking the ground. The weather on this planet can kill you in seconds, Vex explained. They have something called hurricanes. Wind so strong they can throw vehicles through the air like toys, the cadets gasped. They have tornadoes, spinning columns of air that destroy everything in their path. He paused. And that is just the weather. The screen changed again. Now it showed pictures of Earth animals. A lion with its teeth showing, a great white shark swimming in dark water, a huge grizzly bear standing on its back legs. The creatures on this planet, Vex continued, are pure nightmare fuel. These beings kill and eat each other every single day just to survive. A small blue alien in the front row started shaking. And the Deathworlders live there, how? Not just live there, Cadet Zim, Vex said quietly. They became the top predators. They climbed to the very top of the food chain on a planet where everything wants to kill them. He walked across the stage, his boots clicking on the metal floor. Let me tell you about humans. That is what these Deathworlders call themselves. Humans. The screen showed a picture of a human, a normal-looking person with brown hair and a simple smile. They look harmless, do they not? Vex asked. That is their first weapon, deception. He pressed his control pad again. New information appeared on the screen. Humans can run for hours without stopping. Most of us here can barely run for 10 minutes before collapsing. But humans, they can chase their prey until the animal dies from exhaustion. They can survive without food for 40 days, without water for 3 days. They can heal from wounds that would kill any of us. Cadet Ryla raised her hand again. But sir, they are not that strong, are they? They look small. Commander Vex made a sound like a laugh, but it was not happy. Small? Let me tell you something, Cadet. A human's bones are stronger than concrete. Their bite force can crush through tough materials. And their grip? He paused for effect. A human hand can squeeze hard enough to bend metal bars. The cadets looked at each other with wide eyes. Fear spread through the room like cold water. But here is the most terrifying part, Vex said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. Everyone leaned forward to hear him better. Humans keep predators as pets. They share their homes with creatures that have sharp teeth and claws. They call them dogs and cats. They sleep next to them. They trust them. And they eat poison, another council member added from the side. She had blue skin and white hair. They consume things called spicy peppers that cause pain, and they enjoy it. They drink liquids called alcohol and coffee that would make us very sick. The room was completely silent now. Every cadet was frozen in fear. Commander Vex walked back to the center of the stage. So remember this warning, cadets. If you ever meet a Deathworlder, never approach them alone. Never make them angry. and never, never forget what they are capable of. The screen behind him flashed red again, with the words, "Deathworlders, approach with extreme caution." In the very back row of the great chamber, in the corner where the lights were dim, sat a quiet cadet. He had been sitting there the whole time, listening to everything. He wore the same grey uniform as all the other cadets. He took notes in his datapad just like everyone else. But while all the other cadets looked terrified, this one had a small smile on his face. His name tag read, "Jake Morrison, new recruit." The human said nothing. He just kept smiling and writing in his notes. Nobody in that huge room full of hundreds of cadets noticed him. Not yet, but they would soon. The Discovery Commander Vex was not finished with his warnings. The large screen behind him changed again, showing more information about humans and their dangerous world. "Now, cadets," Vex continued, "let me tell you about their survival abilities. Humans can live in almost any environment." He pressed his control pad. The screen showed pictures of humans in different places. Some were in hot deserts with burning sand. Others were in frozen lands covered with ice and snow. Some were even climbing tall mountains. They live in places where the temperature can kill most species in minutes, Vex explained. From burning heat to freezing cold. They adapt. They survive. They conquer. In the back row, Jake Morrison shifted in his seat. He quietly reached into his bag and pulled out a chocolate bar. The wrapper made a soft crinkle sound, but nobody heard it over the commander's voice. Jake slowly unwrapped the chocolate and took a small bite. It tasted good. He had been hungry for the last hour. "Humans can also go without sleep for many days," another council member spoke. "This one had orange skin and 3 eyes. While we need 8 to 10 hours of rest, they can function on just 4 or 5 hours. Some can even stay awake for several days when necessary." Jake chewed his chocolate slowly, trying not to make noise. He was being careful, but someone noticed. 3 rows ahead of Jake sat Zix, a young cadet from the planet Theta 7. Zix had light blue skin, large black eyes, and 2 small antennae on his head. He was a good student, always paying attention to small details. Zix heard the crinkle of the wrapper. He turned his head slightly, just enough to see behind him without being obvious. He saw Jake in the back corner, eating something brown. Zix's antenna twitched with curiosity. What was that cadet eating? "Another terrifying fact," Commander Vex said loudly, making Zix turn back to face the front. "Humans consume liquids that are toxic to most other species. They drink something called coffee." The screen showed a picture of a steaming cup of dark liquid. This coffee contains a powerful chemical called caffeine. It speeds up their hearts and makes them more alert. For us, it would cause serious illness. For them, it is a normal morning drink. Zix's eyes went wide. "Coffee, toxic liquid? They also consume alcohol," Vex continued. "A poison that affects their brain function. They drink it for something they call fun or relaxation. Can you imagine? Drinking poison on purpose?" The cadets shook their heads in disbelief. Behind them, Jake quietly reached for his water bottle. It was silver and had a lid on top. He opened it carefully and took a long drink. But it was not water in that bottle. It was coffee. Cold coffee that he had prepared that morning before class. Zix heard the sound of the bottle opening. He turned his head again, faster this time. He saw Jake drinking from his bottle. The liquid inside looked dark, very dark. Like the coffee on the screen, Zix's antennae stood straight up. His mind started racing. "No," he thought, "it cannot be. That is just colored water, right? Let me tell you about their names," Commander Vex said, walking across the stage again. "Human names are simple but distinct. They have names like John, Sarah, David, and Mohammed. Very different from our complex naming systems." Zix was barely listening now. He kept glancing back at Jake. "They also use names like Michael, Emily, and Jake," Vex continued. Zix froze. "Jake." He said Jake. Zix's hands started to shake. Slowly, very slowly, he turned to look at the cadet in the back row again. Jake was calmly writing notes in his datapad. His face was relaxed. He looked completely normal. But on his uniform, on the left side of his chest, was his name tag. Even from 3 rows away, Zix could read it. Jake Morrison. Zix's black eyes grew even wider. His blue skin became lighter, almost white. It was how his species looked when they were afraid. Jake. That was a human name. Commander Vex had just said it. Jake was a human name. Humans also have something called adrenaline. Another council member spoke. She had red scales and a long tail. When they are in danger, their bodies release this chemical. It makes them stronger, faster, and unable to feel pain. They become like unstoppable machines. Zix was not listening anymore. His mind was screaming. There is a human in this room. A Deathworlder. Right here. Right behind me. He wanted to turn around again, but he was too scared. What if the human saw him looking? What if the human knew that he knew? Their physical strength is remarkable. Vex continued. A human can lift objects many times their own body weight. Their endurance is unmatched. And their determination? He paused. Humans never give up, ever. They have a saying, I can rest when I am dead. Zix felt sick. His stomach hurt. He looked around at all the other cadets. They were all still watching the screen, taking notes, asking questions. Did nobody else see? Was he the only one who noticed? Now, Commander Vex said, let me show you what humans look like so you can identify them if you ever encounter one. The screen changed. It showed several pictures of different humans. Men, women, young and old. They had different skin colors. Brown, black, white, and everything in between. They had different hair colors too. Some had straight hair, some had curly hair. As you can see, Vex explained, they come in various appearances. But they all share similar features. 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, 2 arms, 2 legs, hair on their heads. They stand upright, walking on 2 feet only. Zix tried to remember what the cadet in the back looked like. 2 eyes, 1 nose, 2 arms, 2 legs, hair on his head. Oh no. Oh no, if you see one, Vex warned, stay calm. Do not run. Do not make sudden movements. Humans have very good reflexes. They can react to danger in milliseconds. Zix's hands were shaking so much now that he dropped his data pad. It fell on the floor with a loud clatter. Everyone turned to look at him. Cadet Zix, Commander Vex said with a frown. Are you all right? You look unwell. Zix quickly picked up his data pad. Yes, sir. I'm fine, sir. Just drop my pad. Pay attention, Cadet, Vex said firmly. This information could save your life one day. Yes, sir, Zix whispered. The presentation continued for another 20 minutes, but Zix did not hear any of it. His mind was too busy panicking. Finally, Commander Vex spoke the words Zix had been waiting for. That is all for today, cadets. We will have a short break. Return here in 15 minutes for combat training. The cadets stood up and started walking toward the exits. They were talking to each other, discussing the scary things they had just learned. Zix stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. He did not want to turn around. He did not want to see the human again, but he had to know for sure. Taking a deep breath, Zix turned his head and looked at the back row. Jake was still sitting there, putting his things in his bag. He looked up at that exact moment and his eyes met Zix's eyes. For 3 long seconds they stared at each other. Then Jake smiled. It was a friendly smile, warm and kind. And then Jake did something that made Zix's blood run cold. Jake raised one finger to his lips and made a soft shh sound. It was the universal gesture for keep it quiet or this is a secret. Jake winked at him. One eye closed and opened quickly. Then he stood up, threw his bag over his shoulder and walked toward the exit like nothing had happened. Zix stood frozen in place. His antennae were shaking. His whole body felt cold. The most dangerous creature in the galaxy had just asked him to keep a secret. What was he supposed to do now? The panicked Zix could not move. His legs felt like they were made of stone. Around him, other cadets were leaving the chamber, laughing and talking with each other. But Zix just stood there, staring at the door where Jake had just walked out. A human, a real Deathworlder, in his class. Cadet Zix, are you coming? A voice called out. It was his friend Rila, the green-scaled alien from earlier. She was waiting by the door with 2 other cadets. I will catch up with you, Zix said, his voice shaking. I need to use the bathroom. Okay, but hurry. Break time is only 15 minutes, Rila said before walking away with the others. Zix finally moved his legs. They felt weak and strange, but he forced himself to walk. He went toward the bathroom, but not because he needed to use it. He needed time to think. Time to understand what was happening. The bathroom was empty when he got there. Zix looked at himself in the mirror. His blue skin had turned almost white. His antennae were still shaking. He looked terrified. "Think, Zix, think," he whispered to himself. "What should I do?" His mind was racing with all the things Commander Vex had said. Humans were dangerous. They were predators. They were strong and fast. They could crush metal with their hands. They drank poison for fun, and one was in his class. Zix remembered all the horror stories he had heard about Deathworlders. Once, a human had lifted a crashed vehicle to save someone trapped underneath. Another time, a human had fought off 3 armed attackers with just bare hands. There were stories of humans surviving in space for almost 2 minutes without suits. Stories of humans climbing mountains that should have killed them. But Jake seemed friendly, Zix said to his reflection. He smiled at me. He winked. Then another thought hit him like cold water. What if the smile was a trick? What if humans smiled before they attacked? Zix did not know. Commander Vex had not taught them about human expressions yet. I should tell the commander, Zix decided. Yes, I should report this. There is a human in the class and nobody knows, but then he remembered Jake's gesture. The finger on the lips, the shh sound, the wink. Jake wanted it to be a secret. He wanted Zix to stay quiet. What would happen if Zix told? Would Jake be angry? Would Jake come after him? Zix's antennae drooped down with fear. No, 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 Zix said, gripping the sink. I cannot tell. It is too dangerous. What if he finds out I was the one who reported him? Zix took several deep breaths, trying to calm himself. His people had 3 hearts, and right now, all 3 were beating very fast. The bathroom door suddenly opened. Zix jumped and spun around, his eyes wide with fear. It was just another cadet. A yellow-skinned alien from Class B. He looked at Zix with concern. Are you okay, friend? You look sick, the cadet asked. I am fine, just tired, Zix lied. All right. Break time is almost over. Better head back, the cadet said before going into one of the stalls. Zix washed his face with cold water and left the bathroom. His mind was made up. He would avoid Jake. He would stay far away from the human. He would not tell anyone, and he would not make Jake angry. Yes, that was the safe choice. Zix walked back to the council chamber slowly. Other cadets were already returning to their seats. Zix looked around nervously, searching for Jake. There, in the back row. Same corner, same seat. Jake was sitting calmly looking at his datapad. He looked so normal, so harmless. But Zix knew the truth now. Zix made sure to sit in his same seat, 3 rows ahead. He would not turn around. He would not look at Jake. He would just pretend nothing happened. Commander Vex returned to the stage. All right, cadets. Now we will discuss human combat abilities. This is very important information. Zix's 3 hearts started beating faster again. Humans are trained fighters, Vex began. Even their children learn combat sports. They practice something called martial arts. There are many types: karate, boxing, judo, wrestling, and more. The screen showed videos of humans fighting. They moved fast, very fast. They punched and kicked with incredible power. A trained human can defeat multiple opponents at once, Vex continued. Their reaction time is extremely quick. They can see an attack coming and respond in less than a second. Zix felt sweat forming on his forehead. Or what would be sweat if his species produced sweat? Instead, his skin became damp and cold. Humans also have incredible stamina in combat, Vex said. They can fight for hours. Most species tire after a few minutes of fighting. Not humans. Behind him, Zix heard a small sound. It was Jake shifting in his seat. Zix's whole body became tense. He gripped his datapad tightly, trying not to shake. Another fascinating and terrifying trait, Vex continued, is their pain tolerance. Humans can continue fighting even when they are injured. They ignore pain that would make us collapse. The screen showed more images. Humans running marathons. Humans in boxing rings. Humans doing something called military training. In human history, Vex said quietly, they have survived injuries that should have killed them. Broken bones, deep cuts, even being shot with projectile weapons, and they keep going. Zix wanted to run. He wanted to leave this room and never come back. Now, Vex said, let me tell you about their grip strength specifically. This is important. He held up a metal rod. It was thick and strong. This rod is made of standard titanium alloy. Very strong material. Watch what happens when I apply pressure. Vex squeezed the rod with all 4 of his hands. Nothing happened. The rod did not bend. I cannot bend this even with all my strength, Vex admitted. But a strong human could bend this with just 2 hands, maybe even 1 hand if they tried hard enough. Zix heard another sound behind him. It was Jake clicking his pen. Just a normal sound, but to Zix it sounded like a warning. Those hands, those human hands that could bend metal, they were right behind him, just 3 rows away. Let us take another break, Vex announced. 10 minutes, then we will continue. The cadet stood up again. Zix stood up too, but he did not know where to go. He started walking toward the door, keeping his head down. Hey, Zix, the voice came from behind him. A human voice. Zix froze. His 3 hearts felt like they stopped beating. Zix, wait up. Footsteps. Coming closer. Human footsteps. Zix slowly turned around. Jake was walking toward him with a friendly smile on his face. He looked completely relaxed, his hands in his pockets. Hey buddy, Jake said when he reached Zix. You okay? You looked a bit stressed during the presentation. Zix could not speak. His mouth was open but no words came out. Jake tilted his head, concerned. You sure you are all right? You look really pale. Well, paler than usual. I am. Fine, Zix finally managed to say. His voice was barely a whisper. Cool, Jake said with a warm smile. Hey, I was thinking, it is lunchtime after this session. Want to grab some food together? I saw the cafeteria earlier and it looks pretty good. Zix's mind exploded with panic. Lunch together? With a human? With a Deathworlder? You want to... Zix stammered. You want to eat? With me? Jake laughed. It was a kind laugh, not threatening at all. But Zix could not stop thinking about what Commander Vex had said. Humans were predators. Top of the food chain. Yeah, why not? Jake said. You seem like a nice guy. Plus, I do not really know anyone here yet. First day and all, first day. Jake had only been here 1 day, and already Zix had discovered his secret, so what do you say? Jake asked, still smiling. Lunch buddies? Zix looked into Jake's eyes. They were brown eyes, friendly eyes, but they were also predator eyes. Hunter eyes. Every part of Zix's brain screamed at him to run, to say no, to get away from this dangerous creature. But another part of him, the part that did not want to make the Deathworlder angry, made him nod slowly. Oh, okay, Zix whispered. Lunch together. Jake's smile grew bigger. Awesome. This is going to be great, buddy. I have been wanting to try alien food anyway. He patted Zix on the shoulder. Just a gentle, friendly pat. But Zix felt the strength in that hand. The power. The same hand that could bend metal rods. See you after class, Jake said, walking back to his seat. Zix stood there, unable to move again. His antennae were drooping. His skin was completely white now. What had he just agreed to? Lunch with a human. A meal with a Deathworlder. Commander Vex's words echoed in his mind. Never approach a Deathworlder alone. But it was too late now. He had said yes. Zix slowly walked back to his seat. He sat down and put his head in his hands. The other cadets around him were talking about the presentation. They were scared of humans they might meet someday in the future. But Zix was going to have lunch with one in less than an hour. I am going to die, Zix whispered to himself. I am definitely going to die. Behind him, Jake was humming quietly. A happy human sound. He was looking forward to lunch. Zix was looking forward to survival. The truth, the last hour of class felt like the longest hour of Zix's entire life. Commander Vex kept talking about human abilities, but Zix could not focus on anything. His mind was too busy panicking about lunch. Every few minutes, he would hear Jake behind him. Sometimes Jake would write notes. Sometimes he would shift in his seat. Each small sound made Zix more nervous. Finally, Commander Vex said the word Zix had been dreading. That is all for today, cadets. Classes will resume tomorrow morning. You are dismissed. The cadets stood up and started leaving. Most of them were heading to the cafeteria. Zix stood up slowly, his legs shaking. Maybe Jake forgot, Zix thought hopefully. Maybe he changed his mind. Maybe I can just leave quietly and, hey Zix, ready for lunch? Zix turned around. Jake was standing right there, smiling and holding his bag. There was no escape now. Yes, Zix said quietly. Ready? They walked together toward the cafeteria. Other cadets passed them in the hallways, laughing and talking. Nobody knew that Zix was walking next to the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. The cafeteria was large and bright. There were many tables and chairs. The food stations were along the walls, offering meals from dozens of different planets. "Wow, this place is nice," Jake said, looking around. "Much better than I expected." They got their food. Zix chose a simple meal of green vegetables and blue grain from his home planet. His hands were shaking so much that he almost dropped his tray twice. Jake chose something called a protein bowl with various foods mixed together. Zix noticed that Jake also got a cup of coffee, that toxic black liquid that Commander Vex had warned about. They found a table in the corner, away from most of the other cadets. Zix sat down carefully, keeping his eyes on Jake the whole time. Jake sat down across from him and immediately started eating. He ate normally, using his fork like any other person. Nothing scary, nothing dangerous, but Zix could not eat. His stomach was too tight with fear. "You are not eating," Jake noticed after a minute. "Is the food bad?" "No, I am just not very hungry," Zix lied. Jake put down his fork and looked at Zix directly. His brown eyes were serious now, not smiling anymore. "Zix, I know you figured it out," Jake said quietly. Zix's 3 hearts nearly stopped. "Figured what out?" "That I am human," Jake said simply. "You know, I saw it on your face during class. When Commander Vex said my name, Zix did not know what to say. Should he admit it? Should he lie? What was the safe answer?" I, Zix stammered. Jake held up his hand. It was a calming gesture. "It is okay, buddy. I'm not angry. Actually, I am glad someone finally noticed. You are glad?" Zix asked, confused. Jake nodded. "Yeah. Look, I know what they said about humans in that class today. All those scary stories, the warnings, the danger alerts." He took a sip of his coffee. Zix watched nervously, remembering that it was poison to most species. "But here is the thing, Zix," Jake continued. "Those stories, they are not wrong. They are just incomplete." "Incomplete," Zix repeated. "Yes," Jake said. "Everything Commander Vex said about humans is true. Earth is a dangerous planet. We do have incredible endurance. We can survive extreme conditions. All of that is real." Zix's antennae drooped, so the danger was real. "But," Jake said, leaning forward, "what they did not tell you is why we are like this. And what we do with these abilities, I do not understand," Zix said. Jake smiled again, but it was a different kind of smile now. It was gentle and sad at the same time. "Zix, we became strong because we had to. Earth is brutal. It does not care if you are smart or kind or good. It will kill you if you are not tough enough. So we adapted. We became survivors." He paused to take another bite of food. "But surviving on a harsh planet taught us something important. It taught us to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Zix's eyes widened. "Protect?" "Yes," Jake said firmly. "Do you know why humans keep dogs and cats as pets? Those predators that Commander Vex mentioned?" Zix shook his head. "Because thousands of years ago, those animals were alone and struggling. They were wild and dangerous, yes, but they were also hungry and scared. So humans made a deal with them. We give you food and safety. You give us companionship and loyalty. We protected them, and they became our friends." Jake's voice was warm now, full of emotion. "That is what humans do, Zix. Yes, we are strong. Yes, we are dangerous, but we use that strength to help others, to protect the weak, to save those in trouble." He pulled out his datapad and showed Zix some pictures. They were photos from Earth, humans helping injured animals, humans rescuing people from floods, humans building homes for those who had none. "This is what they did not show in class," Jake said. "They showed you the warrior, but they did not show you the protector." Zix looked at the images. He saw humans being gentle with small creatures. He saw humans crying when they saved someone's life. He saw humans hugging each other after disasters. I did not know," Zix whispered. "Most species do not," Jake said sadly. "They hear about our strength and they get scared. They think we will hurt them, but that is the opposite of who we are." He looked directly into Zix's eyes. "Zix, I could tell that you were terrified of me all day. And I do not blame you. After what you heard in class, anyone would be scared. But I want you to know something important." Jake put his hand on his chest over his heart. "I would never hurt you. Never. You are my classmate, maybe even my friend, and humans protect their friends with everything they have. Zix felt something strange happening. The fear in his chest was slowly becoming smaller. His 3 hearts were still beating fast, but not from terror anymore. From something else, something warm. You really mean that? Zix asked. I promise, Jake said with absolute certainty. That is what being a Deathworlder really means. It does not mean we bring death. It means we have survived death, and we know how precious life is because of that. Zix was quiet for a long moment. He looked down at his food, then back at Jake. I'm sorry I was so scared of you, Zix said quietly. Do not be sorry, Jake said kindly. Fear is natural. Understanding takes time. I am just glad we are having this conversation. Zix finally picked up his fork and took a bite of food. His stomach was not tight anymore. Can I ask you something? Zix said. Of course. Why did you not tell everyone that you were human? Why keep it a secret? Jake thought about this for a moment. Because I wanted to learn. I wanted to hear what other species really think about humans when we are not around. Now I know. You are all terrified of us. He looked sad again, and that is my responsibility to fix. Not by hiding who I am, but by showing everyone what humans really are. By being a good example. By being a friend. Suddenly, there was a loud voice from across the cafeteria. Cadet Morrison. Cadet Zix! They both turned. Commander Vex was walking toward their table. His forearms were crossed and his face looked stern. Several other cadets had stopped eating to watch. Zix's fear came rushing back. Oh no, they were caught. Someone had reported them. Someone had told the commander that Jake was human. Vex reached their table and looked down at both of them. The cafeteria had become very quiet. Everyone was watching now. Cadet Morrison, Vex said in his deep voice. I have received some information about you. Jake stood up slowly. He did not look scared. He looked calm and ready. Yes, Commander, Jake said. Is it true, Vex asked loudly, that you are a human, a Deathworlder from Earth? The entire cafeteria gasped. Cadets turned to stare at Jake with wide eyes. Some moved away from their tables, creating distance. Jake stood straight and tall. Yes, sir, it is true. I am human. More gasps, more whispers. Some cadets looked ready to run. Vex stared at Jake for a long moment. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Vex did something unexpected. He smiled. Then why? Vex asked, his voice softer now. Did you not say anything during my presentation? You sat through 2 hours of me talking about your species and you said nothing. Jake met the commander's eyes with confidence. Because, sir, I wanted to learn how other species see us. I wanted to understand the fear. And now that I understand it, I can work to change it. Change it how? Vex asked. Jake looked around at all the scared faces watching him. Then he looked at Zix, who was still sitting at the table. By showing everyone that humans are not monsters. We are not threats. We are protectors. We are friends. We are students, just like everyone else here. He turned back to Commander Vex. Sir, you taught them about human strength today, about our endurance and our power. And all of that is true. But you did not teach them the most important thing about humans. And what is that, Cadet Morrison? Vex asked. Our compassion, Jake said firmly. Humans became strong so we could protect those who are weak. We survived death so we could save lives. We are Deathworlders, yes, but we are also the galaxy's best friends, if you give us a chance. The cafeteria was completely silent now. Everyone was staring at Jake with new eyes. Then slowly Zix stood up from his seat. His legs were not shaking anymore. His skin had returned to its normal blue color. Commander Vex, sir, Zix said, his voice clear and strong. Cadet Morrison is right. I have spent time with him today. I was terrified at first, but now I understand. Deathworlders are not our enemies. Zix looked at Jake and smiled. They are our protectors and our friends. For a moment, nobody moved. Then one cadet started clapping. It was Rila, the green-scaled alien. She stood up and clapped her hands together. Then another cadet joined. Then another. Then another. Soon the entire cafeteria was clapping. The sound echoed off the walls like thunder. Commander Vex looked around at all the cadets, then back at Jake. His stern face softened into a genuine smile. Well said, Cadet Morrison, Vex said. Perhaps tomorrow I will teach a different lesson. One about human friendship instead of human danger. I would like that, sir, Jake said. Vex nodded. "Enjoy your lunch, cadets. Both of you." He turned and walked away. The clapping slowly stopped, and cadets went back to their meals. But everything felt different now. The fear was gone. Understanding had taken its place. Jake sat back down at the table. Zix sat down too, smiling widely. "That was brave," Zix said. "Very brave. So was standing up for me," Jake replied. "Thank you, buddy." "That is what friends do," Zix said. Right, Jake agreed. They finished their lunch together, talking and laughing. Other cadets started coming over to their table, curious about Jake. They asked questions. They shared stories. They made friends. By the end of lunch, Jake was not the scary Deathworlder anymore. He was just Jake, a classmate, a friend, a protector. 3 months later at the graduation ceremony, Jake Morrison and Zix stood side by side on the stage. They had both passed all their tests with high marks. Commander Vex stood at the podium, addressing all the graduates and their families. "Today," Vex announced, "we celebrate our cadets and their achievements, but I want to recognize 2 cadets in particular, Cadet Jake Morrison and Cadet Zix." Jake and Zix stepped forward. These two have formed the first official human-alien partnership in Consil Academy history. They have shown us that different species, even those from death worlds and peaceful worlds, can work together, can trust each other, can become true friends. The audience applauded loudly. "They have taught us all an important lesson," Vex continued, "that the most dangerous species in the galaxy can also be the most loyal friends. That strength is not just about power, it is about protecting those you care about." Vex looked at both of them with pride. "Cadets Morrison and Zix, you are dismissed to your first assignment together. May you serve the galaxy well." Jake and Zix saluted and walked off the stage together. "Ready for our first mission, partner?" Jake asked. "Ready, partner," Zix replied with a big smile. As they walked out into the bright sunlight of their new future, the screen behind them displayed a final message. "Human-alien cooperation program initiated. The end." Or just the beginning. Far across the galaxy, on other planets and in other academies, the news was spreading. Humans were not the monsters everyone feared. They were protectors. They were friends. They were heroes. And slowly, one friendship at a time, one partnership at a time, the galaxy was learning the truth about Deathworlders. They were not creatures to fear. They were allies to treasure. The end.